She mocked the waitress, until she heard her father's last words, "You stupid girl. Are you blind or just dumb?" The voice cut through the elegant restaurant like a knife. Every guest stopped eating. Every fork froze in midair. Every eye turned toward table 7. Regina Hartwell stood over a young black waitress, her designer heels clicking against the marble floor. Red wine dripped from Regina's white Chanel dress. The stain spread like blood across the expensive fabric. "Do you have any idea how much this dress costs?" Regina screamed, her face twisted with rage. "More than your entire year's salary, you clumsy fool." The waitress, her name tag read Maya, stood frozen. Her hands trembled. The empty wine glass she had accidentally knocked over lay shattered on the floor. Tears filled her brown eyes, but she refused to let them fall. "I'm so sorry, ma'am," Maya whispered. "It was an accident. I'll pay for the cleaning." "Pay?" Regina laughed coldly. She looked around the restaurant, making sure everyone was watching. She loved an audience. "You pay for a $12,000 dress. That's adorable." Regina's friends at the table, 3 wealthy women dripping in diamonds, giggled behind their champagne glasses. They always laughed when Regina wanted them to laugh. The restaurant manager, Mr. Patterson, rushed over. His forehead was covered in sweat. "Mrs. Hartwell, please accept our deepest apologies. Maya is new here. We will cover all damages and—" "Fire her," Regina interrupted. She didn't even look at the manager. Her cold eyes stayed fixed on Maya. "Fire her right now. In front of everyone. I want to see it happen." The restaurant went completely silent. Maya's heart stopped. She needed this job. She had worked so hard to get it. Her grandmother was sick. The medical bills were piling up. Without this income, they would lose everything. "Mrs. Hartwell," Mr. Patterson said carefully, "perhaps we can discuss this privately." Did I stutter? Regina's voice turned ice cold. "Fire her. Now, or I will make sure this restaurant never sees another customer from my circle again." "Do you understand what that means?" Mr. Patterson understood perfectly. Regina Hartwell was the daughter of the late billionaire Thomas Hartwell. She had inherited everything when he died 6 months ago. The mansion, the companies, the connections. One word from her could destroy any business in this city. He turned to Maya. His face showed genuine pain. "Maya, I'm sorry. Please collect your things." Maya's tears finally fell. Not because of the job, not because of the money, but because of the cruelty, the pure, unnecessary cruelty. She untied her apron slowly. Her hands shook as she placed it on a nearby table. "Wait," Regina said, stopping her. A cruel smile spread across her red lips. "Before you go, get on your knees and clean up this glass. We don't want anyone to get hurt." The gasps around the restaurant were audible. This was too much. Even Regina's friends stopped smiling. But no one said anything. No one stood up. No one defended the young waitress. Maya looked at the broken glass on the floor. She looked at Regina's satisfied smirk. She felt the eyes of 100 strangers watching her humiliation. Slowly, painfully, she knelt down. And that's when the restaurant door opened. An elderly black woman walked in. She was thin and frail, leaning on a wooden cane. Her clothes were simple but clean. Her gray hair was pulled back in a neat bun. She took one look at Maya kneeling on the floor. She took one look at Regina standing over her like a queen. And she said words that would change everything. "So, you're the one. You're Thomas's daughter." Regina froze. Everyone froze. The old woman smiled sadly. "Your father told me about you. He said you would be just like your mother. Cold, cruel, empty inside." Regina's face went pale. "Who are you? How dare you speak to me like—" "My name is Evelyn Carter," the old woman said, "and I'm the reason you exist at all." The restaurant erupted in whispers. Regina stared at the old woman like she had seen a ghost. Her confident mask cracked for just a moment. Then the anger returned. "Security!" Regina shouted. "Get this crazy woman out of here." But no security came. Instead, the restaurant guests watched in fascination. This was better than any reality show. Evelyn Carter walked slowly toward Regina. Each step of her cane echoed in the silent room. She showed no fear. She showed no hesitation. 45 years ago, Evelyn began, her voice calm and clear. I saved your father's life. Regina laughed nervously. This is insane. My father never knew anyone like you. Like me? Evelyn raised an eyebrow. You mean poor, black, invisible to people like you? Maya had stopped cleaning the glass. She watched the old woman with wide eyes. Something about Evelyn seemed familiar, but she couldn't figure out what. Evelyn continued walking until she stood directly in front of Regina. Despite her age and frailty, she seemed taller somehow, stronger. Your father was 19 years old, Evelyn said. He was drowning in the lake near my family's farm. I was the one who pulled him out. I was the one who gave him mouth to mouth. I was the one who brought him back from the dead. Regina's face showed nothing. Even if that's true, which I doubt, what does it matter now? My father is gone. It matters because of what happened after. Evelyn said. Your father promised me something that day. He said he owed me his life. He said, whenever I needed help, he would be there. Pretty story, Regina said coldly. But my father was a businessman, not a charity. I never asked him for anything, Evelyn replied. Not when my husband died. Not when I lost my home. Not when I had nothing. I was too proud. But your father remembered. He always remembered. She reached into her old cloth purse and pulled out an envelope. It was yellow with age. The edges were worn from being handled many times. When your father learned he was dying, Evelyn said, he wrote me a letter. He asked me to deliver it to you personally after he passed. He said you needed to hear the truth from someone who had nothing to gain from lies. Regina stared at the envelope. Her hands wouldn't move to take it. I don't want anything from you, she said, but her voice wavered. This isn't from me, Evelyn said gently. It's from him. Your father's last words. The restaurant was so quiet, you could hear heartbeats. Regina finally snatched the envelope. This is ridiculous. Some scam. Some pathetic attempt to get money from my family. Read it, Evelyn said simply. Read it and tell me I'm lying. Regina tore open the envelope with shaking hands. She pulled out a handwritten letter. The handwriting was unmistakable. She had seen it on birthday cards, business documents, and holiday notes her entire life. It was her father's writing. She began to read silently. Her eyes moved across the page. With each line, her face changed. The anger faded. The cruelty melted away. Something else took its place. Something that looked almost like fear. Her eyes stopped at one paragraph. She read it twice, 3 times. Then she looked up at Maya, the waitress still kneeling on the floor surrounded by broken glass. No, Regina whispered. No, this isn't possible. Evelyn smiled softly. I think you've met my granddaughter, Regina. Her name is Maya. Maya Carter. Regina's world collapsed. The letter fell from her hands and floated to the floor. Maya looked between her grandmother and the wealthy woman who had just destroyed her life. Confusion covered her face. Grandma, what's going on? What is she talking about? But before Evelyn could answer, Regina did something no one expected. She laughed. Not a happy laugh. Not a cruel laugh. A broken laugh. The laugh of someone whose entire reality had just shattered. You got to be kidding me, Regina said through her laughter. This is a joke. This has to be a joke. She picked up the letter and read one line out loud. My dearest daughter, if you are reading this, then you have finally met the family that should have always been part of your life. Maya Carter is your half-sister. I am her father, and I have failed you both. Maya felt like the floor had disappeared beneath her feet. Half-sister. She looked at Regina, this cruel, beautiful, wealthy woman who had just humiliated her in front of everyone. The woman who had taken her job, her dignity, her self-respect. This woman was her sister. Grandma, Maya said, her voice breaking. What is he talking about? My father died when I was 2. You told me he was a factory worker. You told me. I told you what I had to tell you, Evelyn said softly. Tears filled her old eyes. To protect you. To protect us all. Regina crushed the letter in her fist. Her shock had turned back to rage, but now the rage was different, deeper, more personal. This is impossible, she shouted. My father would never. He was a family man. He loved my mother. He would never. Your father loved many things, Evelyn said quietly. including my daughter, Gloria. They were young. It was a different time, but their love was real. The restaurant guests watched in stunned silence. This was no longer entertainment. This was a family being torn apart in public. Regina spun toward the manager. Everyone out, now. Clear this restaurant. Mr. Patterson hesitated, then nodded. Ladies and gentlemen, please. No, Evelyn said firmly. Let them stay. Let the world see the truth for once. Too many secrets have been buried for too long. She turned to Maya and took her granddaughter's hands. Your mother, Gloria, was beautiful and smart. She worked as a maid in the Hartwell mansion during college. That's where she met Thomas. They fell in love, or what they thought was love. When Gloria discovered she was pregnant, Thomas promised to take care of everything. He promised to marry her. Maya asked, tears streaming down her face. No, baby, Evelyn said sadly. He promised to pay her to disappear. The words hit like a physical blow. Regina listened with her arms crossed, but her aggressive posture slowly softened. Despite her anger, she wanted to hear this. She needed to hear this. Gloria refused the money at first. Evelyn continued. She didn't want charity. She wanted her child to have a father. But Thomas's parents found out. They threatened Gloria. They said they would destroy her reputation, have her arrested on false charges, make her life impossible. Evelyn's voice cracked. My daughter was only 20 years old. She was scared. She took the money and she left the city. She never saw Thomas again. And my mother? Regina asked quietly. Her voice had lost its sharpness. Did she know? Your mother knew everything, Evelyn said. She helped arrange the payment. She made Gloria sign papers promising to never contact Thomas or reveal the truth. Your mother wasn't a victim, Regina. She was part of it. Regina's face went white. She had worshipped her mother. She had built her entire identity on being Elizabeth Hartwell's daughter. Sophisticated, powerful, untouchable. Now that identity was crumbling. Gloria raised Maya alone for 2 years, Evelyn said. Then she got sick. Cancer. By the time we knew, it was too late. Gloria died when Maya was 2.5. Maya collapsed into a chair. The broken glass forgotten. The lost job forgotten. Everything forgotten except this truth that changed everything. I raised Maya myself, Evelyn continued. I worked 3 jobs. I cleaned houses. I washed dishes. I did whatever I had to do. And I never asked Thomas Hartwell for a single penny. But he knew about me. Maya asked, her voice barely a whisper. Evelyn nodded slowly. He knew. He always knew. And he sent money. Secretly, through lawyers. He paid for your education. He paid for this restaurant job to be given to you. He's been watching over you your whole life, Maya. He just couldn't do it openly, because of me. Regina said. It wasn't a question. Because of Mother. Because of appearances. Because he was a coward. Evelyn said without anger. A loving coward? He cared about Maya. He cared about Gloria's memory. But he wasn't brave enough to face the consequences of his choices. Regina picked up the fallen letter. She smoothed out the wrinkles carefully, almost gently. There's more in this letter, she said quietly. Things he wanted me to know. Things he wanted me to do. She looked at Maya, really looked at her for the first time. Not as a clumsy waitress. Not as someone beneath her. But as a person. As a sister. He says I need to make things right, Regina said. He says everything I have, everything I inherited, half of it belongs to Maya. The restaurant gasped collectively. Maya shook her head. I don't want money. I don't want anything from. It's not about what you want, Regina interrupted. But her voice had changed. The cruelty was gone. In its place was something fragile, something human. It's about what's right. It's about what he wanted. It's about ... double quote. She paused, struggling with the words. It's about who I've become, and who I don't want to be anymore. She looked down at her wine-stained dress. She looked at the broken glass on the floor. She looked at the young woman she had just destroyed for no reason except power and pride. And for the first time in her adult life, Regina Hartwell felt genuine shame. The clock on the wall showed 10:47 p.m. The restaurant had closed hours ago. But no one had left. The staff stood silently by the kitchen doors. The manager sat at the bar, drink in hand, watching history unfold. Regina's wealthy friends had quietly slipped away, embarrassed to be associated with the drama. Only 4 people remained at table 7: Regina, Maya, Evelyn, and the ghost of Thomas Hartwell's truth. Regina had read the letter 3 times now. Each reading broke her a little more. He knew he was dying for 2 years. Regina said, her voice hollow. He had time to tell me himself. He had time to introduce us. Why didn't he? Evelyn sighed. Fear. Shame. The same things that kept him silent for 25 years. 25 years, Maya repeated. I'm 25 years old. He's been keeping this secret my entire life. Regina looked at her half-sister, really studied her face. Now that she knew the truth, she could see it, the same shape of the eyes, the same curve of the jaw. Thomas Hartwell lived in both their faces. I've spent my whole life trying to be like my mother, Regina admitted quietly. Cold, controlled, powerful. I thought that was strength. She laughed bitterly. I didn't realize I was just becoming cruel. You made me kneel on broken glass, Maya said. Not with anger, just with truth. Regina flinched. I know. You took my job, my dignity. You humiliated me in front of everyone. I know. And you would have walked out of here without a second thought. You would have gone home, had champagne, and laughed about the clumsy waitress with your friends. Regina closed her eyes. Yes, I would have. The silence stretched between them. Then Maya asked the question that had been burning inside her. Why? Why do you treat people like that? What did any of us ever do to you? Regina opened her eyes. For a moment, she looked like a lost child rather than a powerful heiress. Because I'm empty, she whispered. Because I've always been empty. My mother never hugged me. My father was always working. I grew up in a mansion full of expensive things and no love. So I filled the emptiness with power, with cruelty, with making others feel smaller so I could feel bigger. She wiped a tear from her eye, the first tear anyone had ever seen Regina Hartwell cry. It never worked. She continued. No matter how many people I stepped on, I never felt full. I never felt happy. I just felt nothing. Evelyn reached across the table and took Regina's hand. The wealthy heiress flinched at the touch, but didn't pull away. Your father wrote about you in this letter, Evelyn said gently. He said he failed you. He said he let your mother raise you to be cold because he was too weak to fight her. He said his biggest regret wasn't the secret about Maya. It was watching you become someone without warmth. Regina's tears fell freely now. He said that. Evelyn nodded. He also said it wasn't too late. He said you had a choice. You could keep being Elizabeth Hartwell's daughter, or you could start being Thomas Hartwell's daughter. The Thomas Hartwell who pulled himself out of poverty, who built an empire with kindness and hard work, who never forgot where he came from. I don't know how to be that person, Regina admitted. Maya stood up slowly. She walked around the table until she stood directly in front of Regina. Their eyes met. Brown meeting brown, sister meeting sister. I should hate you, Maya said quietly, for what you did tonight, for what your family did to my mother. Regina nodded, accepting the judgment, but hate is heavy. Maya continued. I've watched my grandmother carry pain my whole life. I've seen what bitterness does to a person's heart. I don't want that for myself. She extended her hand. I'm not offering forgiveness. You haven't earned that yet. But I'm offering something else, a chance. A chance to prove that letter, in just pretty words. A chance to actually become the person our father hoped you could be. Regina stared at the offered hand. This young woman she had humiliated, disrespected, and nearly destroyed. This woman was offering her grace. Why? Regina asked. Why would you give me that chance? Maya smiled sadly. Because I've been waitressing, cleaning, and struggling my whole life. And you know what I've learned. The cruelest people are usually the saddest people. They hurt others because they're hurting inside. She kept her hand extended. I'm not a billionaire like you. I don't have power or connections. But I have something you don't. I know how to love without conditions. My grandmother taught me that. Regina looked at Evelyn, who nodded. Encouragingly, then, slowly, hesitantly, Regina took Maya's hand. The handshake lasted only a moment. But in that moment, something shifted. Something old ended. Something new began. I don't know how to be a sister, Regina admitted. Neither do I, Maya replied. But we can figure it out. Together. 6 months later, the Hartwell Foundation annual gala was the biggest social event of the year. 300 of the city's most powerful people gathered in the grand ballroom of the Hartwell Hotel. Crystal chandeliers sparkled overhead. Champagne flowed like water. Designer gowns and tailored suits filled every corner. But something was different this year. The woman at the center of it all was different. Regina Hartwell stood at the microphone, looking out at the crowd. She wore a simple black dress, elegant but understated. No diamonds, no show of wealth, just grace. Thank you all for coming, she began. As you know, this foundation has supported various charities for 30 years. But tonight, I'm announcing something new, something personal. The crowd murmured with curiosity. 6 months ago, I discovered I had a sister I never knew existed. Her name is Maya Carter. Gasps rippled through the ballroom. The elite of society exchanged shocked glances. Maya stood near the back of the room, wearing a dress Regina had bought for her, the first gift between sisters. She looked nervous. She looked overwhelmed. But she also looked proud. Maya's mother was loved by my father, Regina continued. But circumstances, and the cruelty of my own family, kept them apart. Maya grew up without knowing her father, without knowing she had a sister, without knowing she was entitled to half of everything I took for granted. The room was completely silent now. Tonight, I'm publicly acknowledging Maya as my sister, and I'm announcing the creation of the Gloria Carter Memorial Fund, named after Maya's mother. This fund will support single mothers, provide scholarships for first-generation college students, and help families who are struggling to survive. She paused, looking directly at Maya. But more importantly, tonight I'm apologizing, not just to Maya, but to everyone I've ever treated with cruelty, to every waiter I insulted, every employee I humiliated, every person I made feel small so I could feel powerful. Tears formed in Regina's eyes. I was taught that power meant stepping on others. I was taught that kindness was weakness. I was wrong, dead wrong. True power is lifting others up. True strength is admitting when you failed. And true wealth ... double quotes. She smiled through her tears. True wealth is having people in your life who love you despite your flaws. She extended her hand toward Maya. Maya, would you please join me up here? Maya's heart pounded as she walked through the crowd. People parted for her like the Red Sea. Some looked at her with curiosity, some with warmth, a few with the cold judgment she had expected. But she kept walking. When she reached the stage, Regina took both her hands. This is my sister, Regina announced to the room. She grew up cleaning houses and washing dishes while I grew up in mansions and luxury. She had nothing, and I had everything. But she taught me something in 6 months that 35 years of privilege never could. What's that? Someone called from the crowd. Regina smiled at Maya. She taught me that family isn't about blood. It's about showing up. It's about choosing each other. It's about forgiveness, even when it isn't deserved. Maya squeezed her sister's hands. You're making me cry in front of 300 rich people, she whispered. Regina laughed, a real laugh, warm and genuine. Get used to it? Being a Hartwell means public drama. It's in the genes. The crowd laughed too, and something in the room shifted. The tension broke. The judgment faded. People began to clap, slowly at first, then building to a standing ovation. Evelyn Carter, seated in the front row in a wheelchair now, wept with joy. Her life's secret was finally free. Her granddaughter was finally acknowledged. And somehow, impossibly, healing had begun. After the speech, dozens of wealthy guests approached Maya, not with condescension, with respect, with welcome. Your grandmother must be an incredible woman, one older woman said, raising you with such grace after everything she went through. Maya nodded. She's the strongest person I know. I hope you'll teach Regina some of that strength, the woman added with a knowing smile. She's changed so much in the past few months, but she still has a long way to go. Maya looked across the room where Regina was shaking hands and accepting congratulations. For a moment, their eyes met. Regina winked. "We're both learning," Maya said. "That's what sisters do." 1 year later, Maya and Regina stood together in the garden of the Hartwell mansion. The same mansion where Gloria Carter had once worked as a maid. The same mansion where she had fallen in love with Thomas Hartwell. The same mansion where her heart had been broken. But today, the mansion felt different. Today, it felt like home. They stood before a new statue, a bronze figure of a woman holding a young child. A plaque at the base read, "In loving memory of Gloria Carter, a mother, a dreamer, a woman whose love could not be contained by walls or wealth. I wish I could have met her," Regina said quietly. "I wish you could have too," Maya replied. "She would have liked you." Eventually, they both laughed softly. Evelyn sat nearby in her wheelchair. Her health had declined over the past year, but her spirit remained strong. She watched her granddaughter and her granddaughter's sister with tired, happy eyes. "Girls," Evelyn called out weakly, "come here." They both walked over and knelt beside her chair. "I don't have much time left," Evelyn said. Neither sister protested. They knew it was true. "But I need you both to promise me something." "Anything, Grandma," Maya said. "Anything, Mrs. Carter," Regina echoed. Evelyn smiled at them. "Promise me you'll take care of each other, not because of money or inheritance or obligation, but because you're family, real family. We promise," they said together. "And promise me you'll never forget where you came from, Maya. Never forget what it felt like to work hard and struggle. Let it keep you humble, Regina. Never forget what it felt like to be cruel. Let it keep you kind." Tears fell from both sisters' eyes. "One more thing," Evelyn said, reaching into her pocket. She pulled out a worn, folded piece of paper. "Your father wrote one more letter before he died. He asked me to give it to you when the time was right." She handed the paper to Regina. "Read it out loud," Evelyn said. "I want to hear his words one last time." Regina unfolded the letter with trembling hands. She cleared her throat and began, "My dearest daughters, if you are reading this together, then the miracle I prayed for has happened. You have found each other. You have forgiven each other. You have become the sisters I always wanted you to be. I know I don't deserve your forgiveness. I know I failed you both in different ways. Regina, I gave you everything except love. Maya, I gave you nothing except distance. Both failures haunt me, but I believe in redemption. I believe that even the worst mistakes can become the seeds of something beautiful. I believe that you two, together, can become what I never was, brave enough to choose love over fear. Don't repeat my mistakes. Don't let pride keep you apart. Don't let money define your worth. Don't let the world tell you what family should look like. Instead, write your own story, a story of healing, a story of hope, a story that your children will tell their children. I love you both. I always did. I just never knew how to show it. Your father, Tom Asp. S. Take care of Evelyn. She's the best person I've ever known. I owe her my life, and now you do too." The garden fell silent. The three women, grandmother, and two sisters, held each other and wept, not with sadness, with something deeper. With completion. 3 weeks later, Evelyn Carter passed away peacefully in her sleep, surrounded by her family. At her funeral, Maya and Regina stood side by side. They had argued about the funeral arrangements. They had disagreed about the flowers. They had annoyed each other about 100 small details. In other words, they had acted exactly like real sisters. And as they watched Evelyn's casket lower into the ground, Maya leaned her head on Regina's shoulder. "Thank you," Maya whispered. "For what?" "For becoming my sister. For real." Regina put her arm around Maya and held her close. "Thank you for giving me the chance. The moral sometimes the people we look down upon are the ones who can lift us up the highest. Sometimes our greatest enemy becomes our greatest family. And sometimes the cruelest moment of our lives becomes the doorway to our greatest redemption. Don't judge the book by its cover. Don't mock the waitress. Don't assume you know someone's story, because one day You might discover they're the story you were missing all along. The end.